I am no Rush Limbaugh. I'm not even a Dan Bongino or a Ben Shapiro, and I'm certainly not a Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, you can like him, you can hate who he was, but the fact of the matter is he stayed on top of his game literally pretty much until the day he died. Okay, maybe he took some time off here and there and so forth, but in general, you will find that that guy stayed on the top of his game for all that time. And you can say what you want about that. It seems to me you at least have to be pretty able to do that, if not a fairly intelligent individual. But where I'm not the, quote, mayor of Realville, I surely try to be a resident. I try to keep things real as much as I'm able to do so. You can find that that's true or not for me, but that's really where I try to live. I want to talk today on a subject that I want to get into the reality of for me. It is the right to try on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Monday, the 31st of January of 2022. Here we are, really, truly closing out that January month in the year of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloutHub, on my Facebook page, on Minds.com, on Parler, or anywhere else you happen to be seeing me. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform, but of course I know that a lot of people see me elsewhere, and you can trust that I'm not terribly disappointed by that fact. And again, today I want to talk on the subject of right to try, and I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes really quick so you have some idea, again, exactly where it is that I'm coming from. Now, you're going to have to bear with me for a minute because I'm going to say some things that you may not think make sense initially. The novel coronavirus has been in the wild, not sure from where, for around 2 years now. But by just about anybody's measure, that would be an exceptionally short time. Really, truly, that's a short time, not a long one. The strains of influenza that are out there, as far as I'm aware, none of them less than 10 years old, and I would say probably substantially older, right? Measles, mumps, and chickenpox have all been around for a very long time before a vaccine for any of them was presented to the world. They were around for a long time before there was any vaccine for them. Everybody knows this to be the truth. Even after the vaccine for mumps wended its way through testing, it took 4 years or slightly more, as I get it, for it to be released for common use. That's leaving smoking tire tracks in its wake, if you ask someone like me. That's how I see it. You may be wondering what any of this has to do with right to try legislation and activity. Had someone believed their child was, or they were, going to die or be severely affected by some disease for which a vaccine or other treatment existed that was still being tested, you might understand how I link the two. If some protocol for AIDS existed and folks were dying of it, the risk of trying that protocol makes perfect sense to me. And that's why I think it got to the point where a lot of people ended up doing that. Honestly, so long as they're made aware of the potential issues with such a treatment, that is the risks of death and so forth, I support the idea of right to try for people who aren't in mortal danger. People do things every day that may speed them to their demise. It may cause them to die earlier. And most such things help them in no meaningful way. How many drug abusers are there, after all? How many smokers? How many with tattoos, which may cause untold harm? We really don't know. We're just beginning to see how that all works out. So if a person wants to try an experimental way of doing things in order to supposedly improve their situation, who am I to tell them no? Should the manufacturer or tester be able to do that? To say no to someone requesting to try their product? That's not really my question to answer. I would argue they have the right to do so, but legally, well, I'm no expert. I believe in right to try, though. That means I have to count the very new coronavirus vaccines as reasonable. I want to make an important distinction, though. I may be for your right to try some new treatment or preventative measure, that doesn't mean I'm in favor of things that are more or less experimental being mandated. Okay, there's my notes. I think this, again, is one of those mic drop moments, right? It just doesn't take a brainiac to look at what I'm saying and realize that people do things every day that very obviously are harmful to their well-being. Every day. Some of them are things that they do because they feel like they have to in order to survive or whatever. So, for example, climbing up on roofs to replace tiles or whatever, roofing asbestos tiles or whatever, you know what I'm saying, right? Changing light bulbs on gigantic towers. Some of them are obviously at least potentially harmful, like taking drugs or smoking cigarettes. Some of them are at least questionable in whether or not they're going to create harm. So ziplining, base jumping, parasailing, cliff diving. So there are any number of things. Even skiing, right? Was it Sonny Bono who died skiing because nobody knows exactly what happened, but he hit something and it killed him, as far as I get it. That's what I remember. I could be mistaken, and I'm willing to be corrected on that. But my point is to say this. Every day, people do things that are risky. If you say to someone who has some disease, some condition, or fears they will get some condition, or fears the outcome of getting a condition that maybe would not be harmful to somebody else, if you say to that person, you can't try this experimental substance or treatment or whatever it happens to be, protocol, whatever it happens to be, then in my mind, and by the way, this obviously means that certain of the restoratives that are being used for COVID are also proper in my mind, are also reasonable, and I'm not going to get into calling names so people don't feel the need to ban me or whatever from their platforms. But I am going to tell you that there are people doing things and other people are saying, oh, you can't do that, or that doesn't help, or that doesn't work. That's not for you to decide. That's between medical professionals and the people they're treating, and really it's the people they're treating, because lots of times they're going to get a hold of this stuff anyway and use it, even if the doctors don't agree. Okay? So my point here is very simple. I'm not trying to tell you, oh, don't do things that your medical professional tells you not to do. Don't do those things. I'm not trying to tell you to do those things. I'm not trying to tell you to take my advice as a medical professional, because I'm not one. I'm not a medical professional. But I am trying to say that if I found myself in a perilous situation where I thought I or one of my children or a parent or whatever was going to benefit from some treatment that was out there, whether or not it was experimental, I'm totally in agreement with it. Now, again, there's a total difference between saying, yeah, I'm okay with trying something to save your life or to help you get better, or maybe even just to keep you from hurting in the first place or whatever. I'm okay with you trying that. Okay? There's a difference between that and telling people you must do this. That's not the same thing. But I'm an absolute proponent of the idea of right to try. I may not be a proponent of mandates. I may not be the greatest proponent of vaccines in the world. I'm not against them, by the way. I don't really have anything. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. You get your mumps, you get your rubella, you get your measles shots and all of that, and I'm not against any of that. That's all fine. You get your polio vaccination, whatever it happens to be, right? You get all of these things in order to protect you from things that may be in the wild, and they're probably not, and you're probably fine without those. I don't know. Ask your doctor. Don't ask me. I say probably because I don't know for sure. But my point is to say this. It's okay to try, in my opinion. Now, that, of course, is going to be dependent on the law and the people who are providing whatever it is that you're trying. But it's not okay to mandate it, in my opinion. I don't care what it is, and I don't care where it is. I don't believe in school vaccination mandates. I don't at all believe in that. Okay, again, this is something I could talk on for a long period of time, even though, as I say, I was pretty much at mic drop by the time I finished reading my notes. That having been said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Monday, the 31st of January of 2022, that beginning of the work week for a lot of folks. That means tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 1st of that second month. the month of February of 2022, excuse me. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page, on Parler, on minds.com, on Locals, and anywhere else you happen to be catching me. Remember that you can give me a boxing glove on Rumble if you choose to do that, which is a rumble. You can give me a plus or a minus, which is a like or a dislike on that platform as well. You can give me likes or dislikes on most every other platform. Obviously, there are some where you cannot do that. But obviously, if you can, I would love it if you would show me that you are, attending to my content and deciding that it's good or bad or whatever you happen to think. That includes your obviously commenting where comments are available. If you comment and it's something that I've put out there, hopefully I'll be notified of it and I will do my best to look at what you've had to say. And if I feel it's a reasonable thing, I'll respond, to your comment. And if not, then that's fine too. I'll still do my best to read it and probably let you know somehow that I've done so. I hope things are going well for you today. I hope you're doing okay and that you're ready for this February month coming in, that first 12th of the year in terms of months being completed today. Hope that the year so far is going well for you, and I would love, as usual, to see you again on Tuesday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was recorded on Monday, the 31st of January of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.